So in our last section, we talked about the types of angle pairs that are formed between two lines. And so then today we're going to look at when I have parallel lines with that transversal, those angle pairs have a special relationship. So we're going to look at that today. So everything kind of stems off of this corresponding angles postulate. Let's see if I can get this right. And so what we want to make sure we understand that. So what the corresponding angle postulate says, that if two parallel lines, so that's our first part, that's our condition, we have to have the parallel lines, and they're cut by transversal. So again, that transversal transverses across two or more lines. Then each pair of corresponding angles is congruent. And this is a postulate. So those are rules that we know, that once I know that kind of puts in everything else I could prove, because if I look at looking at some parallel lines, so setting up our situation, pen's not working very well here. Because we know that, then so if we can know that and we believe, or we know that to be true, then 1 and 3 are congruent, and we can say 1 and 7 are congruent because they're vertical. So this is kind of going back to that proof part, and then corresponding with 7 is 5. So that gives us 1, 3, 5, and 7. And then so what I know also is that 8 and 6 are congruent. And if 8 and 6 are congruent, because they're corresponding, and 8 is congruent to 2 because it is vertical to that, then 2 and 4 are congruent. So all of these ones are congruent to each other, and all of these are congruent to each other, which then we can start seeing some different types of pairs there. So we've shown which ones are congruent to each other. Now if I look at these, 1 and 5 are alternate exterior angles, so I could say alternate exterior angles are congruent. 7 and 3 are alternate interior angles, so I can see from that that alternate interior angles are congruent. Same happened with 2 and 6, which are also alternate interior. So that kind of helps us know some different rules. So using that corresponding angle postulate, we can say if angle 11 equals 51, find angle 15. So if 11 is 51 and 15 corresponds with 11, then angle 15 has to equal 51 by the corresponding angle theorem. So let's look at this one. Again, 11 is 51. And so I'm looking at 16. So 11 and 16 aren't corresponding, but 11 and 15 are corresponding. So 15 is 51 because it corresponds with 11. And then 15 is vertical with 16. So 16 has to also equal because of vertical. So the theorems or postulate that we used was corresponding to get 15 and then vertical to get 16. And I'm not going to have you write a whole proof, but I just kind of want you to be able to reason with all of those. And then on your worksheet, it does task you to ask which theorem. So just naming those theorems that we use. So if 18 is 42, 18 is 42, 22 is 42 because it's corresponding. Right? 18 is 42, so 22 is 42, and 25 is 42 because it is vertical to 22, so 25 is also 42. So again, like we saw when we were talking about it, alternate interior angles are congruent. Consecutive interior angles are supplementary. Let's look at kind of why that is. So this angle is supplementary with 1, and it's congruent to 2. So remember we said if 2 angles are supplementary, so it would also be supplementary with this angle, and so that would mean that 1 and 2 are supplementary. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. So what we're looking at then is just kind of determining what their angle types, and then from there we can tell if they are congruent or if they are supplementary. So angle 2 is 125. Angle 3 is 125. We're looking for that. Kind of give it away. And those are alternate interior angles, and alternate interior angles are congruent. So angle 3 would have to be also 125. Angle 2 here is 125. We're looking for angle 4. Well, it is not a pair with angle 2, but I can find angle 1 because it's linear with angle 2. So I can take 125 minus 180, which gives me 55. And so angle 1 is 55, and angle 1 and 4 are alternate exterior, so those two are equal, so we'd get 55. And so once I know the relationships, whether they're equal or add to be 180, then I can write my equations. So angle 5 here is 2x minus 10, and angle 7 is x plus 15. So what you're going to first look at is like what type of pair is 5 and 7. Those are corresponding. What we know about corresponding angles is that they're congruent. If they're congruent, then they're equal. So I can say that 5 and 7 are congruent because they're corresponding. Then I can say they're equal because remember, if angles are congruent, then they're equal. And then once I say they're equal, I can substitute 2x minus 10 in for 5 and x plus 15 in for 7. And then solve that out, subtract over my x from the 2x to get x, and then add my 10 over, and x equals 25. And that's what we're looking for, but always check because sometimes it wants you to find an angle too. So what you're going to be looking at is like, are these equal or are they supplementary? Because those are kind of the two things we see. So let's look at 4 and 8. So I'm given information about 4 and 8. Well, they are not alternate interior, alternate exterior, or corresponding. So they're not equal that I can tell right off because it's not one of those. But what I do know is 8 corresponds with 6. So 6 also equals 4y. So since 6 equals 4y and 4 and 6 are linear, then 4 plus 6 equals 180. So let's look that out. 8 and 6 are corresponding. And that means they're also equal. And so angle 6 equals 4y. So angle 4 plus angle 6 are supplementary. So I would do 4 times y minus 25 equals 4 times y minus 25 plus 4y equals 180. Can't get my pen to work, so and then we'd solve out for y from there. And then I could distribute my 4, so I'd get 4y, plus minus 100 equals, or plus 4y equals 180. So 8y, when I add over my 100, is 4y equals 280, so y equals 70. So you can set those up based on knowing what you know about angles. All right, if you have any questions, make sure you let me know. Thank you.